Today's show is brought to you by homebrewsupply.com. Homebrew Supply is your one-stop shop for brew day ingredients, recipes, equipment, and more. Take advantage of everyday low pricing and everyday flat rate shipping only at homebrewsupply.com. Go to homebrewsupply.com right now and use our promo code HHH to get 5% off your order. homebrewsupply.com. Let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Keeping sour gear separate, finding a leak in your draft system, the importance of water profiles, and figuring out which parts will work with your keg. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 210. Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stewing. Today I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, right over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, right down there, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Good.
That's wonderful. A listener messaged me, do y'all remember the SNL bit for Celebrity Jeopardy? And Sean Connery. And one of the things was, like, he just write down a word, any word, whatever, and you can't lose. And he wrote down the word below. And then, okay, what did you wager? And the wager was me. And then Alex Trebek goes, below me. Below. Apparently last week I did that with whichever one of y'all was beneath me on the Zoom call. I said, and below me. But the way I said it, they were like, you remember that SNL bit? Da, 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 da. I was like, I'll never make that mistake again. But now
I suspect that it was on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I don't know I don't remember you being below me last week. But anyway, this is the Homebrew Happy Hour. We're so happy.
I don't remember you below me.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah. Hey, we're talking about all that YouTube censoring that. We are giving them reason. Last week, someone also pointed out, like the one time you're talking about piss and like drinking it maybe, or the flavor of it. Yeah, you wonder why YouTube. But we actually update on that real quick. We won our appeal. They are not age restricting our content. Yeah, thank you, YouTube. And I forget the name of the president, the CEO of YouTube, but thank you for your, and the lady who does the CEO of YouTube, Susan something, I think. We thank you so much for taking pity on us. We don't actually monetize 95% of our content anyway, so it wouldn't have really affected us. But the 18 people who watch every week might have been slightly inconvenienced. So anyway,
I finally went to a premium and I love it. No more
commercials. You can't go back, right? I know. If you're going to do, we've been doing, and Todd has it because I threw him in a family plan because they separated. I used to do Google Music, and underneath it was all the one, like YouTube Premium and all that stuff combined. Then they separated it. YouTube Premium, I don't think Todd does YouTube enough to appreciate it. If you ever watch YouTube Premium and then you go back to having to watch it with ads, it's not doable. It's not doable. It's
like Hulu and Hulu with ads.
Exactly. I know. It's worth the money for me to not have ads.
But I probably 80% of when I watch TV, it's YouTube. That's all I watch.
Same here, man. In my office, I just was on background noise. If I don't have on Seinfeld, The Office, or Curb Your Enthusiasm, I have on like any given gas station encounters has become one of my favorite YouTube channels of all time. I
have to check that out.
Oh, you'd love gas station encounters.
But Curb Your Enthusiasm, I can't stand that little guy, Larry David.
What? How dare you?
He's a wormy. Yeah.
Thank you. How many times have I?
He's a creepy old man.
I love. That's the best part.
He wants me to watch that, and I'm like, I am not watching that.
But you love Seinfeld.
When, he's dating some super hot young chick, and I'm like, nah, I don't buy
James,
that.
if I had my own show, that's who I'd be dating too. I mean, no, honey, I'm married to a super hot wife. digging myself a hole now. But if I had my own show, I'd be doing that too. No, Larry, he was the producer and a writer for Seinfeld.
You'd still keep your wife too, right?
Oh no, yeah. I was talking about who I'd be dating. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but if he was the star of the show instead of Jerry Seinfeld, it would have never been.
Oh, you're right. Well, they based George off him though, which makes sense when you read or watch Larry David. He's totally George. But anyway,
I'm weird like that. I guess he's a creepy old guy. I just can't.
I'm weird like that because that's what I like about him the most. But anyway, we've got just a tiny bit of small talk before we get to this week's episode. Starting off like we usually do, talking about it is not too late to join our Patreon and get this month's recipes. Your options for the month of December is the delicious Sweet Melt Stout or the Lord of the ESB, which happens to be some of my favorite artwork. And I didn't actually do the artwork for that recipe. Normally when I say it's my favorite artwork, it's because I did it and then I'm trying to boast about it. But whoever did the artwork for Homebrew Supply on that Lord of the ESB did a great job. And I actually rewatched I did the Hobbit trilogy last weekend and the Lord of the Ring trilogy. I had I didn't sit and watch the whole thing. It was in background noise as I'm redoing my office. And it was, I forgot how good those movies are. But anyway, the artwork of the Lord of the ESB is fantastic. And you can go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Look at all the tiers. The top two are the recipe receiving ones. If you join the $35 one and you're dead set on one of these recipes, just hit me up. Usually when you join the $35, because it's every other month, I make you wait till the second month of you joining. But lately, it's the holidays. We're in the giving spirit. If you're joining and you really want one of these instead of whatever we're going to offer next month, talk to me and we'll work with you. And then $50 tier members, you get it shipped out to you, which they are shipping out. My understanding is this week. I got to get with Joe because we got late into inputting them. And by we got late, I mean I got late. So I'm going to make sure if they go out this week or not. Check your Patreon inbox at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour for all the updated info when they ship out. And you can message me to get the tracking code for your shipment once you see that they have gone out. But also, speaking of giving, we are still every member, as long as we have these, and we have a ton of them, every member in the $35 tier and the $50 tier and technically the $25 tier, because you get the premium welcome pack, are getting these fun metal beer signs from tintackers.com. We had them sponsored last week's episode, right, guys? I think it was last week's episode. They sponsored, and we had a coupon code good for people. We appreciate everyone who reached out and showed us the merch. People are already placing their orders and already receiving them. So we appreciate Tin Tackers for being quick on that, because there's nothing worse than placing an order and not getting in time for Christmas. But
I got my order very quickly too. I placed an order. So it's I meant to bring it and open it during the podcast, and I left it on my desk.
Get it?
You could
run over there, James. I'll small talk it with Todd while you go over there. The lighting in my office could be better. That's part of me redoing my office. I'm redoing my studio area too. It's too reflective. The quality of these signs, I don't want to boast, Todd, because all I did was do the design, and it's not a whole lot of design to it. But the quality is really good on their signs. And
it's what's metal. I mean, I think simple's the best.
It really is. And I didn't realize, because I'm an idiot and I don't realize things, your office, what percentage of those are in your work office are tin tackers? Like 80% of those?
Yeah. We have a ton of them. They're fun. I like beer signs. You know what I want now? I want some neon signs. I really want some neon
signs. Remember the ones I gave my pop? They're LED, but they look like neon. Yeah, those are clean, and
the key there is you gave it to your pop.
I shouldn't have even ever told you about it, because when I bought them, I called you as the backup plan. I said, "Hey, if he doesn't want these, would you want them?" I shouldn't have done that. I should have waited.
Oh, that's cool!
Whoa, look at that one. So
I haven't actually seen them yet.
Audio only listeners. The first one is a massive road sign.
That's cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, they are wrapped awesome.
Oh, they did a real good job with packaging. I can say that from experience from our bulk buy on the Homebrew Happy Hour signs. They got to us in great condition.
Yeah. This is cool.
What's next?
Look, James looks like it's Christmas there.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna like this.
Oh, my goodness.
One of my favorite breweries. So.
A huge again, Todd. You got massive signs, dude.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at my wall now, going, "Wait a minute, where am I going to put all those?"
Gonna go. That's so. While James is getting, there's more signs, right, James?
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
So Todd.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all.
No. I'm just saying that while he's doing that. Speaking of left hand, people who follow us on our Instagram will know I've been harping on left hand's Galactic Cowboy, the Imperial Stout. It's a very hop forward Imperial Stout. Oh, that's
cool too.
I've never heard of Uncle Bear's.
Uncle Bear's Brewery.
Did you get that because of the look, or where is that out of?
The look, yeah.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Well, I got some wildlife ones. It's a ranch.
I have a 4-pack of that Galactic Cowboy. I'm bringing up for you guys. We'll all share, and then a 4-pack of Left Hand's Wake Up Dead as well. Oh, that's clean.
Yeah. You know what?
All these signs are clean, dude.
I've got that other beer that we talked about, the Scotch.
The Scotch Ale. Yep.
Ale, and I think I told you I was here with all my buddies.
Yeah.
And I opened one and I took a sip of it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's really good." And then I read it was 8%, and we'd been kind of drinking that night, and I was like, "I am not drinking at 8%."
Look at that sign instead of "Sorry, we're closed." Sorry, we're drinking.
We are drinking.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's hilarious. I like that sign. Yeah, and I have to on my way up. So I'm coming up tonight, because that's how I usually do it. I'm leaving early because Todd has me running his errands for him, picking up your Anchor Christmas Ale. It's at the only location it's at Bee Cave, which I live south of Austin, and Todd's like, "Oh, it's oh nice! Look at that Kolsch sign, dang! You got me a Christmas present. Thanks, Todd." I've tried to steal that Jaeger sign, that lit up sign you have in your home.
Well,
But anyway, I have to go up to Bee Cave. You were like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that far." Bee Cave's like driving to San Antonio, basically. Dang. Oh, so you already have a Big Sky. I like that. Another Big Sky.
I have some more. I like all their beers.
Big Sky is a great brewery. Absolutely. And you probably get it there on tap, right?
I think that's an elk with, a cow with elk horns tied to it. If I saw it.
This was one of the very
Avery's
first
White Rascal
beers I ever had.
White Rascal. Yeah. It's a cool looking sign, isn't it?
I'm telling you this, I bought this at a liquor store in Eastland along I-20. And I was amazed at how good this, for the longest time, I thought this was the best wheat beer made. Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Avery makes really good beer.
Yeah.
I make really good beer. And you have Avery signs already as well because you like the beer. We tintactors.com, I believe our promo code homebrewer is still active. She made it seem like it's good
I think they just got another free commercial this time because they're not actually sponsoring the episode.
I do that too much, which also real small talk again, and then we'll get into the show. Our buddies at Imperial Yeast just announced today that they've opened up their East Coast operations in Philly.
No way.
Yep.
Really?
So we've
That's cool.
You look more signs.
Brewery?
I love Brooklyn as well.
See, and I have a Brooklyn, but that's a totally different one. I like that.
Love Brooklyn.
That's all of them.
So Imperial Yeast in Philly now, we've kind of known about it for a little while because our good friends there, Casey, Hellwig, and Owen have let us in on a little of the info, and I was proving that I could keep a secret. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. But anyway, with all those signs and stuff, and again, just to bring it back into you can get this sign behind me. You can get more information. You can support our show and what we're doing here by going to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Any of the tiers, we greatly appreciate our Patreon community. We just hit 80 patrons this week. We had our 80th.
Really?
We did. And
100. We should do something special for 100.
I would love to do that. And the humbling thing too, the cool thing is 52 of them it's 52 or 51 of them are recipe receiving tiers. So we know why they're joining. We're okay with it. We welcome you to our community anyway. But with all of that.
All right, here's my pledge to you.
Yeah.
If we get to 100 patrons.
Yes.
I will find a better host. How about that?
Oh, son of a gun. Wait, no. I know you're not talking about James. Wait, no. You're talking about, you're not going to get rid of him. Oh, no.
No, the guy that runs everything. I mean, audio.
Anyway, let's get on. We have 3 questions, or 4 great questions for this week's show. So I'd hate to keep small talking. So let's get going. Our first one came from our buddy Warren, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Warren wrote, I've read before that it is wise to use separate equipment for sour beers, but I don't understand why. Which pieces of equipment would you say need to be used solely for brewing sours, and why do they need to be separate? Is the bacteria so strong that once it is introduced, it can't be removed? Warren, that's a great question. I'll open it up by saying it's just fermentation, from my understanding. James, right? What during?
Well, it's actually a controlled infection, so
right. But I mean, nothing. The mash tun doesn't need to be its own thing.
No, it's just fermentation.
Cold
everything
stuff
involved with post fermentation and beyond. Anything that moves the fermented wort. A lot of people think it's good insurance, especially if you're using poly or plastic fermenters, and hose is cheap. So technically, here's my thought on it. And Todd, you probably back me up on this. If you sanitize correctly, you clean it, you sanitize it, technically you should be able to use equipment, the same equipment, whether it's sours or regular beer. But a lot of people have had bad experience and probably didn't clean and sanitize the way they should properly. And then there's people that they want to, like if you take, we talked to a brewer that had a brewery and they had a specific fermenter they used just for sours because they couldn't afford to lose all those fermenters trying to save money and store it in their regular stuff. So everything was kept separate. And his explanation to that was, I can't take a chance when I've got thousands of dollars in ingredients. It's easier just to have a dedicated lines and a fermenter just for that, and then I don't have to worry. So I would probably be the same way.
And that, for me, is all the more reason, and the good excuse for why I don't brew them. Like, I can't afford all that equipment. I would love to brew a sour. I'd love to drink sours. I just can't get into them because I don't want to mess up this, my Genesis fermenter. I only have this one, or these buckets. Yeah. But what I mean, let's get to Todd, when there is like a blemish is the wrong word, a scratch in like a plastic bucket, that's just welcoming bacteria to live there. And if you have the like Brettanomyces or whatever that you're purposely introducing, is it better than other yeast at just getting in there and living there to infect future batches? Is that what it is about these sour strains?
I really don't know. I mean, I've never brewed a sour beer. I don't know much about sour beers. And I stay away from them because I don't want to mess up my equipment as well. That was actually going to be my answer, and you already stole it. Thanks. But I mean, I really don't know. I mean, it seems to me like if you're using sanitizer and you sanitize it well, you'd be okay. But I have no experience, and I actually put beer in buckets a lot still. I mean, I have my big fermenter, but usually when I do an L, I'll do a lager and then do an L and then do a lager and an L. I use plastic buckets a lot. I've got a lot of plastic buckets, and it's interesting to me because almost all of them are going to have some minor scratching because you're cleaning them and things happen. And I have, where's wood? I got an actual wood desk here. I'm going to knock on wood.
Behind you, the window.
Yeah. I'm knocking on wood. I have never done it where I brew a 15-gallon batch, put them in 3 different buckets, and one of the buckets was bad, had an infection. So I don't know if that's because I sanitize really well and I'm real careful about it, or that I've just been super lucky.
That's it. Exactly. You're very, very well. You're good at that. You're thorough, I would say.
Yeah, and remember the interview with Jonathan Etley. One of the things that stood out to me why he prefers the BTF iota 4. I mean, he prefers it because he sells it, but his claim was that it's preferred also by brewers because of its effectiveness of killing yeast. And I would imagine he's talking about everything present, the good, the bad, whatever, that you get it done and killed before you're putting your wort in there, before you're pitching the yeast you actually want there so that you have a clean slate. I would think like what y'all are saying, to reiterate, because I know y'all use SandStep 99.9% of the time up there, and y'all haven't had an infection since switching to SandStep, correct?
No, and I had infection. I did have infections before. I can't 100% say it was because of sanitizer, but we've since learned that Star Sand doesn't work well in hard water, and I have very hard water. So I would probably attribute it to that. It certainly wasn't user error. It had to have been the brand of sanitizer. Right?
Absolutely. I've never experienced.
I was talking to Rick after one of the conventions at the airport, or you and I were, and I happened to have my water profile on my phone, and I told him that I'd never had this happen before, but I had 2 batches. In fact, one right after the other. And he looked at the water profile and he said, with what I was using as a sanitizer, it wasn't going to work because it doesn't work. With
he could tell.
Now, what was it? What were you using?
Star Sand.
Oh, you were using, okay. Yeah, because that's specifically the one that they've said doesn't work as well in hard water.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, but before I lived in San Marcos, I think the water's pretty hard there too.
It is. It's very.
So yeah, that maybe that's part of the problem. The other one too, there's also one out there that's like sold as a cleaner, but it also works as a sanitizer. It does not work as a sanitizer. It's a cleaner, so the only 2 brands I've really had good luck with are that one from National, it's a
BTF
what is it
iodophor.
called? I forget. Huh?
BTF iodophor.
BTF iodophor,
Yeah.
and then the
sand step.
Sand step, yeah.
Right. And like I say, my pop and I use iodophor, and y'all use sand step. And like I said, we've all been I'll knock on the wood I have here. We've been infection free for a while. And
good.
I'm gonna take that clip out of context and use that on our Instagram. I've been infection free since '93.
Josh, we've all been infection free for a while now.
I don't know, man. After hanging out with your buddies at opening weekend, I had to get tested. Anyway, so wrapping up his question, like the things you would have to separate are, like James said, just fermentation, the cold side and beyond, because you're not having that sour specific strain introduced until it's in the fermentation bucket or conical or whatever. If you're going to use buckets, I was joking about not being able to afford it. Buckets are cheap. What are buckets? Like $11 for a 6-gallon bucket. And then whatever the shipping is, if you go on Keg Connection, it's gonna be $20 and some change. You can get a standalone bucket for your fermentation on sour, and you're putting it in a keg. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. You should not have to dedicate a keg to the serving of sour beer. It should not infect it. But what would y'all say?
It shouldn't. No,
right.
I mean,
right. And when someone writes in like, you told me it wouldn't, and then it did. Oh, we'll address that later. But you really should.
But hold on. But none of us have ever brewed a sour beer. We have absolutely.
Now, that's technically not true. I have absolutely brewed sour beer.
That's right.
None of us have ever brewed a sour beer on purpose.
That's right.
How about that?
Wait, people do that?
So we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
Wait a second.
We should preface it with that.
People brew
that's our advice.
People brew those on purpose? I thought it was just an ad, like my Kolschweisen. People could do that on purpose. But anyways, Warren, thank you so much for submitting the question. This is a great time to remind you, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we send you a $25 gift certificate to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Mr. Todd Burns. Thank you, sir, for your generosity. Moving on to question number 2 comes from our buddy Alfonso, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com as well. Alfonso wrote, Josh, I love the podcast and the website. My question today is about leaky systems. I have a 2-tap setup from Keg Connection, and I believe I might have a slow gas leak somewhere because my CO2 is emptying slightly quicker than it probably should. It is not shockingly quicker, just barely noticeable. What would you recommend I do to test for a leak, and where are the most common spots for leaks to occur? I have PTSD from testing kegs back in the day when I was in Todd's backyard, and all we were basically selling were 2 faucet basic kits and then a crap ton of kegs, and having to sit there and I had a squirt bottle full of soap, and this is part of the answer, Alfonso. The squirt bottle full of soap, and anywhere on the keg that has an outlet, so the gas post, the lid, the liquid post. That's where I tested on the keg. Todd, I imagine that's how we're testing regulators for leaks. That's how we're testing any lines. A good old bottle of soapy water and your eyes. Is there a better way to test leaks?
I don't typically use a squirt bottle, but more like a gravity fed one, because when you spray it, it makes foam, and then it's hard to tell. So I'll mix up, and it doesn't even have to be a dripping bottle. It could be just a glass. You put a little bit of dish soap and some water, and then just put that on every connection that there is. When you get to the one that's bubbling, it'll bubble. What was the type of kit he has? I don't have the question in front of me.
Well, he just said a 2-tap setup from us.
Okay, perfect.
From
no, that's what I needed. So on most of those, you're going to have swivel nuts on the air distributor. You're going to have swivel nuts on the disconnect if it has disconnects with swivel nuts. A lot of times those will become loose. So you're moving lines around, you're doing stuff, and they'll actually back off a little bit. Take a wrench and get them good and tight so they don't back off. That could that's where most leaks, I would say the majority, and they come from everywhere, but I would say the majority of people that I talk to that develop a leak, it's because a swivel nut got loose and they didn't realize it. And then just put it on every orifice basically that's on the whole system, and you should be able to find that leak. I mean, I've also had people that got so frustrated that they just dunked the whole thing except for the regulator and into water. I was just about to ask you that because I remember we've had people I filled up my bathtub and I put my whole system in there. Like, oh, that's dedication. And then they asked, could that have messed something up? Like, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think it could. It's probably not good to fill your gauges on your regulator full of water.
It might be a little bad, yeah. But no, it actually is fairly common, like Todd was saying, for those connections to loosen up a little. And you're lucky if it is a slow burn, because some people get really burned quick, and they set up their keg and they pour their beer and they drink that one night, and then the next night they go and nothing's pouring and it's reading empty. I just filled this up, and it's because they had some. It doesn't take a lot to kill a CO2 cylinder if it's a leak. Todd, this is from personal experience asking you. My dad and I have a keg. One of those old, the Firestone. Remember back in the day when we used to do Firestone black and blue combo? Because they'd always come in black and blue. I have one of those blue handled ones. The lid that comes with it, every time you first connect gas, it starts leaking a little from the lid until it seals, and then boom, it's good to go. Is it actually? Do you think it's still actually leaking and it's just so tight that we can't tell, or is that? I mean, if you put just put soapy water around it once, and if it doesn't bubble, I mean, I'm telling you, if you have the most minuscule leak you could possibly imagine, it will bubble if you put soapy water on it. Okay,
so you don't have a problem. In fact, you left one of your kegs here, the one with all the stickers on it.
Yeah, that's my keg. Yes,
and I cleaned it the other day.
You already went through that beer? That was the breakfast stout. There's no more breakfast stout?
Dude, you knew that last time you were here, you talked about it.
No. Last time I was there, I didn't drink it, so that...
Okay, no, that wasn't the breakfast stout. This is a different keg of yours.
Oh, the Helleweisen. The Helleweisen.
It only has one handle on it.
That's the wheat beer. Yep.
So it had a leak on the poppet, on one of the poppets, and I had a hard time fixing it. I had to take it off and lube it. I didn't even have to replace the poppet valve. That's another thing. A lot of people buy poppet valves because they've got a little leak. Two things on that. One, a lot of times you can just take it apart and put a little O-ring lube on it and it'll fix it. It's not cracked. It's just dried out a little bit. So that's what I did on yours. I certainly didn't want to waste one of my poppet valves on your keg. So I lubed it and put it back on there, and it worked fine. It also was doing the same thing on the lid. It was hard to get it to seal, but it sealed fine, and I double checked it and it was sealed good. The hardest thing on that one was getting all those damn stickers off, though. God, that took forever.
You're a real jerk. So if you and then the awful thing is, it's not beneath him to have done that. I don't know if you're being serious now. That's the real problem of what's happening, because you would absolutely
you would recognize it as your keg if I didn't take all the stickers off. So
That's right.
Brake cleaner works great on stickers.
Oh, good to know. Thank you. Yeah.
So does fingernail polish remover, apparently. Someone recommended that to me. Yeah, acetone. Thank you. Someone recommended that to me. So yeah, Alfonso, the good news is that it should be fairly easy to determine if you have a leak or not, like Todd was saying. And when I said squirt ball, yeah, no, we weren't. It was like a ketchup bottle. We weren't, because you're right, it makes the foam. We were using it to drip out. It was just a convenient thing to hold it in. But
yeah, we used to get those same bottles we use that they use on spray bottles, those the round ones that are 32 ounce. We used to have a cap for those that had a long nipple on it, and you could slowly let it come out. So that worked really well.
Yeah, and you'll
just use an old shampoo bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And then just like you said, gravity feed it out. You're gonna find a leak if it exists.
You'll find it. Well, I say that you almost certainly find it. Yeah,
almost certainly. You're right. We don't want to give any guarantees because we've been proven wrong many a time. So, anyways, thank you so much, Alfonso, for submitting your question. Moving on to the third question of this week's show, came from our buddy Charles P., who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. He wrote, Joshua and gang, I added your podcast to my weekly routine this year, and I'm happy to have found you on Spotify. As a new homebrewer, I have been enthusiastically researching as much about brewing as possible. One topic of discussion that seems very popular online is water profiles when brewing certain styles of beer. How focused on building a proper water profile are you, and how would one tell if a batch was brewed with a different water profile? For example, we know how big on alt beer you all are, so could a man like Horst Dornbusch tell if James used a Dusseldorf water profile, but Joshua didn't, even though the rest of the recipe was the same? I think a blind test on this subject would make for a great video. Thanks for taking my question, Charles. My answer is very short. Well, I'd never done a water profile in my life for the beer my dad and I brew, and that's probably not controversial. That's hyperbolic, but I know a lot of people who are very into water. Our friend Lorena is super knowledgeable and knows what she's doing. My dad and I are not that way. We are just, hey, if you drink our alt beer that we brewed, it's a Manchac alt because of the water profile. That's our excuse. We don't.
Y'all have good brewing water.
So we seem to. We seem to have decent, but I do know. I'll throw it to you first, James, because you're very knowledgeable. You know about how to build a water profile. How important it is on any given brew day for you to have a matching water profile.
Well, Todd's been kind enough to give us a really cool RO system for our brewing. And that's really all we use. I try to keep our brewing simple, and so far we've had really good results. Now, if you go back to the Horst episode, he'll tell you people obsess way too much over water. Did he not? That was one of his things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Water. I think one of the questions was, what was the one thing that people overdo or overthink? And the first thing he brought up was water.
It was water. Yep.
And I think that as long as you start, if anybody in any municipal water system can get a water profile free of charge. And then you can go in and you can plug those numbers to the many online calculators, or you can compare that to styles. That's a deep rabbit hole that I don't want to go down. I just want to keep it simple. pH is the one thing that I look at when we're mashing, and I want to be between 5.1 and 5.6. I think that's right. And as long as you stay within that profile, RO water does for the most part. You can affect that with some acid malt, or you can do pH. You can adjust pH with calcium carbonate or gypsum, depending on which way you want to go. But I leave all that to the
pros. We're professional, but the pros.
No, we're just homebrewers.
Well, I think, how about this perspective? I would say, if you are absolutely dead set on clone 1-for-1, then maybe do a batch with matching the water profile if it's available, and doing it without, and doing your own in-house test to go, was it worth the trouble? And by trouble, I mean, like you said, starting with a flat RO water and then building from there. Because I know, we've done brew days where you've brought like the gypsum and the calcium or whatever, and then we didn't use it. We were like, we're okay. And it's not, we had the water base there. We're just like, we haven't had the need. And again, I think with this topic, like a lot in home brewing, it's just what do you want to get out of it, and what is the net positive of it? Like Todd, have you ever done a water profile on a beer you've brewed?
So I have 3 chemicals here. I have calcium chloride, like y'all mentioned, the gypsum, and then there's a mash stabilizer that I have a bottle of. I got it from work, but I've never used that one. So, and I decided quite a while ago that I was going to start doing a water profile on every brew, and I'm still fairly dedicated to doing that a year and a half later. I just never have done it.
Oh, it's like my New Year's resolutions, where it's like, I'm going to start eating better next Monday. Next Monday,
boy,
I'm starting.
Do I have the best of intentions to start doing the water profiling on my.
You know what, Todd? Let's. I was going to save this for the last episode of the month. Our Brew Year's resolutions. Todd is to build water profiles. Y'all heard it here first in 2021. Is to build water. No, it's really just not an important thing to me because we haven't needed it for me and my pops brew days. We haven't needed it. And I think he wants to do a water profile breakdown because the water we use is on well, and we'd have to, send it off. I think it's fairly cheap.
Do you not RO it?
No, we don't. We take it. No, we've never even, I've considered doing that just because then it would be more predictable if we're doing a new style. But with the beers we've brewed, I mean, y'all have had them, and granted, when we've messed up, it's been fermentation issues. I don't believe it's been water issues, because then when we do good, those issues would still be present if it was a water.
You would always have that,
right? Yeah.
Well, kind of depending on the style.
You're absolutely
on the style. Yeah.
No, you're right.
You could have one style that your water's absolutely perfect for, and another one that it wouldn't be. So
good point. You're right. But I'm saying
for my well water, there's not a style
that it's good for
my well water.
Wait, and when's the last time you brewed at home, dude? It's been a while.
Years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just because you haven't had to.
And when I did, I would always bring water. I would buy Ozarka water.
Oh, okay.
Buy the water.
All right.
I don't think that's true. I heard that the Duster Ale is very dependent on your water style, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how much Bodo are you putting in it?
Oh, Todd, you jerk.
Yeah. No. I mean, I just spent a Duster Ale.
This has
where do you live? I mean, what's the name?
It is Duster.
It's Duster. Yeah. So yeah.
You
have to have your own beer company there that use that water style.
James, this ale has a bit of lacquer taste. Where did that come from?
Yeah. No, they all said Copenhagen.
So is that what it really tasted like?
When you got a water-based lacquer leaching out of a Bodor,
tastes like Copenhagen.
It'll taste like Copenhagen.
Hey, well, was that not your chew of choice for many years? Like, it could have been. Gosh,
could have been worse. I can remember people trying it, going, "Ooh, that tastes exactly like I thought it would." That's homebrew.
Oh no, we've talked about it on past shows before, where the first impression for me is so important because people don't have high expectations, and so when you not like, that's why I love the breakfast stout and having it on tap for the holidays. Because it's one of the better beers we've brewed twice in a row now, 2 years in a row. And people who drink it are like, oh my God, you brewed this? As opposed to that Kolschweizen where it's like, oh, what's this say on tap? No, you can't have it. It's closed. That's closed. I just don't have the heart to dump it yet. But don't drink that. But we're lucky to have great.
You brewed this? Yeah. Like we're fooling them with a commercial beer,
Because that's not beneath me. I almost took the Kolsch Fru labels off of that and stuck me and my dad's when we were doing the review of the Kolschweizen so that y'all wouldn't know how bad the Kolsch turned out. But anyway, I love how Charles also threw me under the bus, like as if James would be the one to follow the rules and I'd be the one like, oh, do whatever with Horst, and name dropping Horst, which reminds me that we get so many emails complimenting us about that episode, wanting him back on the show. We've got to figure out a way to get Horst. Maybe he lives in Boston, and COVID's weird. Some point in the normal future, assuming that becomes a thing, we need to have a brew day with Horst, Todd. We need to have him at the ranch. And
I mean, I know we would all love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll plan that out, because a lot of viewers are like, you got to have Horst, guest host the show. I was like, well, now that Todd's talking about getting 100 patrons and replacing me, I think we know a guy. I think we know someone.
Now listen, if Horst decided he wanted to do the show we wouldn't need 100 patrons.
No,
I mean,
you say sayonara, Josh. Yeah, you're gone. I would leave. Look, trust me.
yeah, I would. You could
James
kick me off.
No, I would
You
know.
could kick me off the show. and
I would
replace
know.
me with Horace.
Trust me. I know my spot in the pecking order. It's okay. I play drums at the church, and there's this guy. He's an older guy named Eric. And long story short, every time I get scheduled, I ask the worship leader, I'm like, was Eric not available? Because that's who I would have put in the band if I was picking. Like, he's like, no, man, you're doing okay. I was like, no. I know my spot in the pecking order. But anyways, thank you so much, Charles, for submitting your question. One final question for this week's episode before we wrap it up comes from our buddy Nathan, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Nathan wrote, hi, Josh. I'm a young brewer from Florida, and I have $1 million idea for you. Unbreakable hydrometers. Tell Todd to fund the development and you will be filthy rich. I do have a question, though, for you, or it's probably better to ask Todd and James. I'm getting reamed on today. I recently bought some very cheap kegs on Facebook Marketplace, but 3 of them have no markings at all, and I can't tell what kind they are. My other kegs have it clearly marked that they are challengers, so I don't know if I can use the same parts on these unmarked kegs, or can I figure out which replacement parts I'll need in the future when that time comes. Keep up the great work, Nathan. Before we
did
get
he say if they're ball lock or pin lock?
He did not in this question. I think I automatically assumed they were ball lock because my experience with Challenger is ball lock. But I guess, did Firestone make pin lock Challengers? Firestone's the ones out of Spartanburg, and they made for the Challengers were for them. I'm 80% sure. The other
I'll have to get back to you on that. I believe there's 7 or 8 different brands of pinlock kegs, and I know Firestone made them, but I don't know specifically that they called them Challenger. I'd have to look and see, but
they had Challenger in the ball lock. I remember again.
I would look on the bottom of them. Some of them only have it on the bottom. Alloy Products is one that sometimes they were on the bottom, and there were maybe 1 or 2 other ones where it just had it. It was really, you didn't really notice it, but it was actually on the bottom where the rubber is.
Well, and remember too, I say remember, I mean, we're still in the biz. Like even from Firestone, they had like Challenger 5.
Sure.
They John Wood, I think, is Firestone as well, or was John Wood its own thing?
No, John Wood was its own.
Was his own? Okay. But I mean, and then Cornelius, and then like there is a ton of them. But I guess getting to the meat
John
of the question.
Wood were pinlocks, yeah.
Getting to the meat of the question, though, for poppets, I know there's universal poppets. Is there universal posts? Is there what?
No, because the threads are different. Yeah. So there's basically 90. This is every keg I have ever run into fell into this category. There's Cornelius, and then there's everything else. General, So if it doesn't say Cornelius, it would use the same parts as a Firestone. And the only exception I know of to that are AEB out of Italy, and they use the same parts as Cornelius. And then maybe some of these newer kegs that some of the shops are having made, like in China, some of those might be the same as Cornelius, but I don't know the answer to that. I know AEB and Cornelius are the same, and everything else would use the same parts as what people would call Firestone or non-Cornelius.
We don't really have any of the Chinese import kegs that we've like rallied against forever. Could it be those, do you think? Because I've never seen, have y'all ever seen a refurbished keg not have a marking on it? And like you said, Todd, I forgot the bottom is a great spot to check, but I usually see them stamped pretty well because they're etched into the side of the keg, where you can figure it out that way what it says. It might, some get covered by stickers. I'm just trying to think of like.
No, I've definitely seen them with no marking except on the bottom.
And is it stamped into the rubber, or is it on, you have to remove the rubber and it's stamped onto?
No. It's it's right there. You turn it over, it's right there. It's
okay.
It's not stamped on the rubber. It's part of the rubber, if I remember right.
Okay, interesting. Because that,
in other words, it's not like a ink or whatever kind of stamp. It's part of the mold that makes
it's embossed in the
embossed.
Yeah.
There we go. That I was trying to think of the word too and not sound dumb. Is sublimated? No, it's embossed. That's exactly what it is. So besides the post being different in the threads, would that mean the universal poppets would still work on those posts, and then O-rings are universal to like ball lock kegs for the most part, except for maybe racetrack. No, they are still. You still use a standard lid gasket even on a racetrack keg. I'm just trying to think of what besides the post. What else wouldn't be proprietary, or what else would be proprietary?
That's it.
That's it, right?
The poppets post, yeah.
Yeah, so it would. Yeah, you know what we could do? Maybe Nathan, I'll email you. You listen to the show, obviously, so you hear it here too. He can maybe send photos to you.
Yeah.
Email
I mean, I
photos?
can tell by looking at the top,
Right.
too. It's different. I mean, I would say this: if they don't say Cornelius, then they consider them to be Firestone. Period.
Okay. If you can't find the Cornelius stamp somewhere on it, then it's safe to assume it's Firestone.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless maybe it's a newer keg, like you said, because it could be well, if it's AEB.
All the newer kegs, every newer keg, every keg that anybody has made will have it stamped on the side, just like a normal keg.
Gotcha.
It's extremely rare not to have it stamped on the side.
That's what I thought too.
And I've only seen it on pin locks. I've never seen it on a ball lock that I can recall.
You know, it's funny. We did ask on the show, and also through customer service. I'm sure you've seen it for a recommend. Like people have asked, "Can I get a Challenger, or can I get this type?" Do you think that's because they're trying to keep it the continuity with what they already have, or do you think some people actually have their favorite keg brand or model? It's got to be for parts.
I don't know.
You don't know? Oh, I thought it was an interesting question that you were totally checked out of. I love that. I get a kick out of it when people are like, "Well, what do you recommend? Like, do you have a favorite keg?" I'm like, the one that Todd lets me. Yeah, Todd could not care less. Well, besides Pinlock, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw you use a Pinlock.
Yeah, I mean, I would use a Pinlock. I have ball lock disconnects in my. I don't care though. Pinlock, and I use racetracks. I mean, a lot of people don't like race. I've got. I think two of my beers right now are using racetrack kegs. I don't care at all. It doesn't matter to me at all.
I wouldn't be opposed to using a racetrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, me neither. I just haven't seen them in your setup. Mainly because when we have them, they sell so quick. Usually they're priced lower when they're on sale, and they fly out the door when we have a racetrack keg sale. Which is funny because there are people on forums online or Reddit who would swear that racetracks are terrible. But no retailer can keep them when they have them. Like they,
well, because they sell them so cheap. That's why. I mean, so the problem with racetracks is the internal parts on the post. There's a part that's plastic, hard white plastic or opaque plastic, and they tend to kind of get a little chewed up and messed up, and it makes people really nervous because they're like, well, I could contaminate my beer with that. But I think what people forget sometimes is the beer passes through that right before it goes in your glass, and then you drink it, and it's not like you get some little particulate, and then it sits for a month and grows something. I mean, you're pretty much just going to drink it and pass it through your body, and it's gone, right? I mean, it doesn't. You're already. I usually sanitize my keg, so I've already gotten a little sanitizer on there, and I've never had an issue with it. But what you can do on those, you can still buy the part, but the problem with buying the part is it doesn't always fit. So sometimes you have to grind it down. So we've fixed quite a few of those just by buying the parts and grinding them down. It's not hard to do. I
love your laissez-faire attitude about things. Like, I don't care. I'll use whatever keg. I don't care. Except I don't actually like it when we do things like when we did that carbonation video with the 2-liter. And you're just cranking up the gas. I'm like, can't that blow up? And you're like, I don't think it can. Oh, I mean, it can. Obviously, it can. Shaking it. Yeah.
Anything can blow up if it has enough pressure. Josh.
Yeah, you're very matter of.
You know what? Those 2-liter bottles handle an amazing amount of pressure.
They do.
Well, I learned though because Todd started doing it on one of these newer ones that weren't like. What were the ratings? You were like, oh, we need to find one for this because they're thicker lined than the ones for water.
Water bottles. If you get something and it has a liquid that's not carbonated,
that's what it was.
I would not use that bottle to carbonate.
That's what it was. Even though you had started I brought him one of those on accident, and he started using it. And I guess before it blew up, he realized like, oh, this didn't have carbonate. Oh, this could have blown up.
Well, it always cracks me up when people buy a used keg and then I get an email and they're like, this keg's got some serious issues. It has a ding on this side and has this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could have any keg I want, obviously, out of thousands of them. And when I get a new keg, I quite literally walk out to the warehouse and grab the first one I run into. So
yeah, you do. You've also gotten some ugly kegs, but I love those.
I grab the ugliest ones I can find.
Yeah,
in the corner of the bead keg.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love those emails too, because sometimes people forget some of these kegs are 40 plus years old. They've been around, and like, hey, this one had a little ding on the outside. Like, yeah, that's in our description, and and it had a soda smell. Like, yeah, it might be residual, but it's probably from the brew clean because it leaves that kind of soda smell. Yeah, like the questions that we have. Like, you know what? We should just do a video on the. No, we have a video of our kegs, but maybe not necessarily the most frequently asked questions. Because that get asked a lot. Just like, oh, I thought that these would be newer than this. Like, no, it's in the description how they are. But
I heard one of them was there's a line running down from the top to the bottom on the side.
Oh no!
That's called a weld.
I love that. That's my kind of question, man. if Todd had a running list of all my stupid questions just from this week,
I could publish a book.
That would be great. A book.
Oh, if I could get you and Zach together and do it would.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? That'd be too many pages, though.
Not enough pictures either. But anyway, Nathan, thank you so much for submitting your question, gentlemen. That does it for this week's episode. I really appreciate y'all's time. We got this recorded in record time. It's Wednesday. I'll actually have this published on time. People listening, you're welcome. The last 2 episodes have been like 12 hours late. No big deal. Just 12 hours late. A little late. But this one will be on time and right in time to enjoy your weekend. And then next week, we're going to record early as well so that we're not trying to record on Christmas Eve, because nobody wants to do that. So we'll probably record next week on Tuesday or Wednesday, because I'm going to be on vacation. I leave Friday night for Port A, and I come home Monday for our wedding. It's my 13th wedding anniversary. So
you come home, and then I leave the next day for South Padre Island, or the day after that.
That's right. That's why we talked about recording. You're leaving on Tuesday, right?
I think
or Wednesday. No, you're leaving Wednesday.
The 22nd, I'm taking my dad to Abilene to the doctor.
Oh, that's what it was.
I'm leaving the next day. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we talked about doing it next week, and if you can't, James, you'll do next week with me, right?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here at work the whole time.
No. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'll see y'all here in like a day. I'll see y'all soon.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show's sponsor, homebrewsupply.com, for supporting us and the homebrewing community. Enjoy 15% off site-wide right now through the end of the month at homebrewsupply.com, plus their low $9.95 flat rate shipping. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Steubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.